In a pulse-pounding Big Ten opener that had Memorial Stadium's sea of red shaking on its foundations, the Nebraska Cornhuskers came agonizingly close to a pending number 21 Michigan, only to fall 30-27 on a last-second field goal that felt more like a reprieve for a Wolverines squad that dodged bullets all afternoon. The sellout crowd of 87,278 witnessed a game that encapsulated the Huskers' tantalizing potential and infuriating pitfalls, while simultaneously peeling back the curtain on Michigan's vulnerabilities. Sure, the Wolverines improved to 3-1, but this wasn't the dominant statement when expected from a program still clinging to national title aspirations. Nebraska squandered drive after drive with boneheaded decisions, execution lapses, and coaching that bordered on malpractice, allowing a Michigan team that looked mortal, plagued by turnovers and a shaky passing game, to limp away with the victory. It's a stark reminder. The Huskers can hang with the big boys, but until they clean up their act, losses like this will keep piling up. And for Michigan, this performance screams overrated more than playoff lock. The game's tone was set early, and not in a way that bodes well for Nebraska head coach Matt Rule. On the opening drive, the Huskers marched 94 yards into Michigan territory, poised to strike first against a Wolverines defense that had shown cracks in prior outings. But in scoring position inside the 10, offensive coordinator Dana Holgorsen dialed up a baffling 4th and 2 shovel pass to tight end Luke Lindemeyer from the 6-yard line. A gadget play that screamed overthinking when running back Romer Johnson had already gashed Michigan for 12 yards on the prior snap. The pass connected but fell a yard short of the marker, turning red zone gold into a goose egg. The next drive? A missed 39-yard field goal by Tristan Alvano after another promising push. Nebraska left 10 points on the table in the first quarter alone, handing Michigan the early edge with a 46-yard Dominic Zvada boot. We had them on the ropes, Rule admitted post-game, but we punched ourselves in the gut. From there, the affair devolved into a highlight reel shootout marred by mutual deficiencies. Michigan's ground game exploded for 286 rushing yards, the most Nebraska has surrendered since Oklahoma's 312 in 2022, fueled by 3 explosive touchdown dashes that exposed the Blackshirts' run fits. RB Justice Haynes was a one-man wrecking crew, piling up 149 yards on 18 carries, including an untouched 75-yard scamper through a gaping B-gap just before halftime that restored a 17-10 lead after Nebraska had clawed back. Jordan Marshall added a 54-yard TD burst in the third, while QB Bryce Underwood, Michigan's heralded freshman phenom, the number 1 overall recruit in the 2025 class, contributed a 37-yard keeper off a turnover. Zvada's boot was ice cold, nailing field goals from 46, 56, and 21 yards to account for all of Michigan's points, as Underwood struggled mightily through the air, 12 of 22 for 112 yards, 1 interception, forced fumble leading to Nebraska's only takeaway, and 0 passing TDs. His legs saved him, scrambling for 58 yards, but the passing woes underscored Michigan's rebuild, a far cry from the juggernaut that claimed the 2023 title. Nebraska's offense, meanwhile, hummed when it clicked, with sophomore QB Dylan Raiola flashing the arm talent that made him the number 2 recruit in 2024. He finished 24 of 38 for 308 yards and 3 TDs, torching Michigan for 210 yards and 2 scores in the first half alone on 14 of 20 passing. W.R. Ja'Cory Barney Jr. was his favorite weapon, hauling in 2 long bombs, a 26-yarder to tie it at 10 and a 49-yard Hail Mary at halftime that knotted things at 17, all while returning punts for 45 yards. T.E. Heinrich Harburg capped a gritty 75-yard fourth-quarter march with a 3-yard TD grab, pulling the Huskers within 30-27 with 1:34 left. But the shine dulled under relentless pressure. Raiola was sacked 7 times for 52 lost yards, hurried on countless drops, and hit with 10 tackles for loss behind the line. The offensive line, bolstered by Alabama transfer Elijah Pritchett at left tackle, crumbled against Michigan's front 7, led by LB Ernest Hausman, 9 tackles, 1 sack, and D's Derek Moore and Rayshawn Benny, 3 combined sacks. Nebraska managed just 112 rushing yards on 28 carries for .0 average, with Johnson held to 62. player matchups told the tale of unforced errors amplifying Michigan's edge. Raiola versus Underwood was billed as a generational showdown, but the Nebraskans' poise shone brighter when protected. His 79.8% completion rate pre-halftime evaporated under duress, dropping to 55% overall in the second half. Underwood, meanwhile, was erratic, his fumble on a third and 3 scramble gifting Nebraska prime field position at midfield, yet the Huskers punted after 3 plays. Defensively, Nebraska's blackshirts forced that strip, Elijah Judy with a recovery, and limited Underwood's arm, but gaps in run defense allowed Michigan's backs to feast. Haynes and Marshall combined for 203 yards on 25 carries, exploiting over-pursuit on the edges. Barney's route running torched Michigan CB, Will Johnson for 142 yards and 2 TDs, but drops by other receivers, 3 on the day, and a failed onside kick sealed the loss. The coaching mismatch? A bloodbath for Rule. His counterpart, interim head coach Biff Poggi, filling in for suspended head coach Sharon Moore, a black DI hire, who was sidelined for the second game of a self-imposed 2-game suspension tied to the NCAA's ongoing sign-stealing investigation into the 2023 Connor Stallion scandal. Leaned into the run game after early stumbles, adapting when Underwood's passes faltered by dialing up design keepers and play-action boots that chewed clock and hid weaknesses. Rule and Halverson? Stuck in neutral. No quick screens or RPOs to neutralize the pass rush. No max protection slides or rollout packages to buy Raiola time. We saw the pressure coming, blitzes up the A-gap, edges looping inside, and didn't adjust when Husker assistant lamented anonymously. Instead, predictable drawbacks led to those 7 sacks, costing 52 yards and derailing drives. Rule's clock management was vintage malpractice, burning timeouts on a third-quarter challenge that failed, then leaving 134 on a late Hail Mary attempt after Harburg's score. This marks Rule's 0-5 against top 25 foes at Nebraska, his in-game rigidity a recurring theme. Recall last year's Ohio State collapse. Poggi, in his interim role, showed adaptability, but even he couldn't mask Michigan's flaws. A secondary torched for 308 passing yards, and an offense averaging 3.2 yards per pass attempt. If this is Michigan's ceiling, the playoff talk feels premature. Defensively, coordinator John Butler could have schemed more twists or stunts to disrupt Michigan's line, but the big runs were baked into Nebraska's aggressive 4-3 base, trading gap integrity for speed that left cutback lanes wide open. It's a style that works against lesser backs, but crumbles against talents like Haynes. Still, those 75 and 54-yarders were preventable with better pursuit angles, and Butler's halftime tweaks, adding a nickel to slow the edges, came too late. As the Huskers licked their wounds, eyes turned to the schedule. A bye week before hosting Michigan State on October 4th. The Spartans 2-2 are a middling bunch, riding a shaky win over Western Michigan, but exposed by Rutgers' rush, allowed 212 yards last week. MSU's QB Aiden Childs has arm talent but footwork issues, and their linebackers struggle in space, prime for Raiola's deep shots if the O-line gels. Nebraska's front 7 should feast on Childs' 1.8-second release time, while Barney could exploit a secondary ranked 105th in pass defense. A bounce back seems likely, but only if Rule installs quick game wrinkles and Butler drills run fits. Speaking of that, what a farce. Slotted randomly after Week 4, Nebraska's off week disrupts the rhythm of a 3-1 team desperate for momentum, forcing players to recuperate in practices that risk the same injuries as games. College football's by tradition stems from NCAA bylaws dating to the 1980s, mandating at least one off date per season to curb overscheduling amid a 12-game slate, now pushing 13 to 14 with playoffs. It ballooned in years like 2025, with 14 Saturdays from Labor Day to Thanksgiving yielding 2 byes for most teams, per calendar quirks, not some benevolent rest edict. Proponents cite injury reduction and academic focus, but that's hogwash in a contact sport where hurt happens in scrimmages or even daily life. Why pad the calendar with downtime when fans crave action? It kills TV flow. Every week, marquee matchups vanish, hello empty Saturday slots, and stalls team progression, turning hot streaks cold. Scrap it. Pac-13 to 14 games straight through. Whoever greenlit this idiocy? Likely NCAA suits balancing broadcast deals. Owes college football an apology. Players and fans deserve better than artificial pauses that harm more than help. In the end, Saturday's heartbreaker wasn't just a loss. It was a mirror. Nebraska proved it belongs on the same field as Michigan, outgaining them in total yards, 420 to 398, and matching scores until the final whistle. But rule stasis squandered chances, and a defense that bent not broke. On the ground turned opportunity into overtime for the visitors. The Wolverines? They won ugly, scraping by on-field goals and fortune, a far cry from the dynasty blueprint. For the Huskers, now 3-1, it's back to the drawing board. No more gimmicks, just grit. Big Ten play awaits, and Lincoln's ready to roar again.